Welcome to the Wheats on Your Mind podcast. My name is Aaron Harries. Wheats on Your Mind is brought to you by the Kansas Wheat Commission and Kansas Association of Wheat Growers. On this episode of the podcast, we are visiting with Lyle Friesen with Friesen Harvesting. Friesen Harvesting is a third-generation Christian family operation that began in the early 50s, starting out with a 27 Massey and a 1949 Chevy truck. The operation has progressed to 4 S770 John Deere combines, 6 Kenworth trucks, and supporting equipment. Lyle, it's glad to have you on the podcast. It's got to be an exciting time of the year for you, your family, and your crew. Things are about to get very busy. I'm sure they're busy all year long. Before we talk about how you get ready to hit the road for your harvest season, tell us a little bit about your family and how you got into the custom harvesting business.
Well, my dad actually started it in 1949 was the first year he went out. He went to southern Oklahoma, north of Wichita Falls, and got a job there with a pull-type combine that they took apart in a pickup, and they slept underneath the pickup, and the farmer brought them food, and I think he said they cut a quarter.
Wow.
The first year they were down there, and then they packed up and came back, and we still harvest for that same family. They're in their fourth generation there, and we still harvest all their crops.
Yeah.
So that's kind of been a neat deal for us. Family-wise, I have 2 boys here that farm with me that help on the harvest, and also a full-time hired hand that goes on the harvest with us. Then we hire 7 other guys to fill in the crew.
Where is your headquarters?
We're in Meade, Kansas, southwest Kansas, kind of between Dodge and Liberal. We also farm and ranch, run quite a few cows and farm, dryland farm. We don't have any irrigation, but dryland farm, mostly wheat and milo.
So how big of a territory do you cover when you do your custom harvest route? Where do you start and where do you end up?
We start right north of Grainfield, Oklahoma, and we end up north of Poplar, Montana, which is about 40 miles from the Canadian border. Usually harvest around, in the neighborhood of 30,000 acres a year. And then we come back to Meade and harvest fall crops after that. And
so what's the timeline? I know it differs a little bit every year, but when do you think you're getting started this year?
We normally start about May 20 is pretty average. Sometimes it's earlier, sometimes it's later. And then wheat harvest will go till we'll get done in Montana, usually about the first week of September, maybe the second week of September, somewhere in that range.
Do you have the same book of customers every year that you see, or is that pretty variable?
Probably 95% are all the same every year. Once in a while you pick up some odd jobs, but that's getting harder and harder to do. In the 70s, when I started, it was real easy to pick up all odd jobs and stuff, but because of the bigger farmers, and there's just not that opportunity anymore.
So tell everybody about, I mentioned a little bit in the introduction, but it's probably updated. Tell everybody about the equipment you run.
We're running, the S7s now, which is the new John Deere. We usually run new machines each year. Then the Kenworth trucks would be varied from 15 years old to 5 years old. And we have 2 grain carts and tractors. And so when we get on the road, we have a lot of stuff going down the road.
Who's your maintenance man on the crew?
Bryce Myers, my hired man.
He keeps everything running.
Yeah.
So what have you heard so far this year about the crop? I'm sure you've talked to folks in advance. What are things looking like now?
Well, in Oklahoma, right where we harvest, our guy got his wheat all in and got a stand, so we're going to have a pretty good crop down there. But Texas looks real bad. A lot of wheat's destroyed in Texas already. Southwestern Oklahoma looks bad. Here in Meade, we just got a rain, so we'll have some wheat, but the wheat was definitely hurt from the drought. Northwest Kansas Colorado looks good where we harvest, but southern Colorado is bad. and western Colorado by the mountains is bad. Montana, I just talked to them yesterday, and they're about half done planting. They have good moisture for planting, but you never know up there. Kind of like here, it's a dry area, but they usually have pretty decent crops.
Yeah, quite a bit of variability as we often hear. So when you're going from state to state, what do you think are the biggest challenges? I mean, have there been any instances in the past, where there have been some disease issues? And I know you always have to clean out the combines, but are there some challenges there when you're crossing state lines?
Not particularly. I mean, you have to clean your combines and stuff to go cross state lines and get your permits and all that kind of stuff. But our biggest deal is either drought or hail.
Right.
Because if you get wiped out in an area and lose 5,000-6,000 acres to hail or drought, it's awful hard to make that up because there's just not, you just can't go anywhere and find those kind of jobs.
Sometimes we get long rain delays, and how do you navigate that? If you're in one area where a customer and you just can't get back in the field, what do you do?
Eventually get in.
Just wait. Wait.
Yeah, we've split up and send 2 combines up ahead and leave 2 down there and finish up or whatever. But most years we have big enough jumps that most years it works pretty good. A lot of the big cutters have enough combines that if they have 10 combines that they can leave some down there and go on. We're kind of limited that way because we can't split up too much. And when you split up, your efficiency goes way down.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a catch-22. The biggest change in harvesting as far as wheat is the varieties have hurt the custom harvesting a lot, because it used to be that it would ripen down south and then just gradually go north, but you get the short varieties and the long varieties, and then you're stuck at a place longer or shorter, and then it's hard to get to the next place. So we used to, in the 70s, we'd go from southern Oklahoma to central Oklahoma and then home. Now we go from southern Oklahoma straight home. So you miss a spot there. Going north, we'd go to Scott City area after Meade and then St. Francis, Colorado. And now you just go straight from Meade to St. Francis area. So that's probably the biggest difference in my lifetime, is that, and there's just not wheat anymore. I mean, Montana, it used to be all wheat. Now last year we were probably 60% pulse crops.
Wow. Yeah, significant change, and that does make sense about the different maturities of the wheat. I hadn't thought about that. Used to be pretty predictable, but now there's so much variability in that. What else have you seen change specifically regarding wheat? I mean, I know you've no doubt seen yields increase dramatically. What have been the other significant changes in the past few decades in your mind that have changed the way you do things?
Probably the biggest thing is it used to be that you'd go in an area and you'd be there for, if you were with a farmer for 2 weeks, that was kind of normal. Now they want you in there and out of there, and if you have good cutting, you can be done in 4 or 5 days. It's just a lot faster, and then you sit around. If you don't have a job, then you sit around more, work more hours when you're, probably not more hours, but you cut more acres in a shorter period of time. I guess that's probably the biggest thing, is everybody with the big machines, everybody wants it done yesterday and done fast so they can get ahead of the hail.
Always the trick, isn't it? So have yields kept up pace with other commodities? I mean, we've seen dramatic improvements of wheat yields. Are there some places that have changed more dramatically than others in what you've seen over the years?
No, as far as the wheat yields, I think it's pretty much been across the board that they have just increased about the same all over. But they've definitely, I mean, in the 70s, we were 25 to 30 bushel wheat. Now if you have a decent crop, it's 50 to 60 bushel wheat or better. Very little irrigated wheat anymore.
Yeah. Do you use any stripper headers?
We have.
Find good luck with them, or?
No, we don't like them. But that's our opinion. Some people still use them. The biggest problem we had with stripper headers, we used them on our own some, and in western Kansas, if you get a wind, you'll get drifts of broken off wheat stubble that are 3-4 foot high, and then you can't plant milo in it.
Yeah.
They do save moisture, but if you get a wind issue, you've got a real problem.
You've been doing this long enough that you've probably seen the farms that you go to change hands from one generation to the next. Are there some surprises there that you've seen, and dramatically how the operations change when a father hands it off to a son or daughter?
Oh, I mean, usually all of ours have been pretty smooth transitions. We do have one customer that's gone organic, which makes it a little different.
Yeah.
He was big in no-till, and now he's tilling everything again and going organic, and that seems to be working for him. It's a little more of a hassle for us, but works good for him.
What are some of the things that you like most about the business and some of your least favorite parts of the business?
Oh, probably the most satisfying is when everything's going good and you're getting a lot done and your customer's happy. Probably the hardest part of the business is hiring help every year. We're pretty particular on who we hire. We're a family operation and got kids around, and so we screen them pretty heavy, but that's probably the hardest part of the harvest. Going down the road, moving from place to place is definitely the most stressful time all year, every year.
Have you made use of the foreign visa program? Have you ever done that?
No, we have had a couple of foreigners, but that's been 20 years ago. We quit and just went to, we have a good enough name for ourselves that haven't had trouble getting workers. It's just too expensive, and most of your custom cutters are all H2A workers, but we haven't gone that way. We get most of our workers from dairy farms in Pennsylvania, Ohio, Virginia, guys that want to come out, 18 to 25 that want to come out and see something different. We've been real fortunate to have good crews.
Yeah, well, I can't blame them for getting tired of milking cows. I've done that before. Harvesting sounds like more fun. How about the elevator, the grain handling business, how that's changed? I mean, obviously the trucks get bigger, the ways they probe and sample the grain gets bigger. What parts of the world now, specifically with hard red winter wheat, are you maybe seeing elevators test for protein or things that they haven't done in the past?
Yeah, Colorado and up north, everything's tested for protein. Oklahoma, Kansas, still very few. Probably the biggest change is, in the 70s with the acres of wheat and stuff, a lot of times had long lines and stuff at the elevators, and with the elevators upgrading and going for corn, they've all made it to where in wheat harvest we almost never have a line. I can remember in the 70s sitting in line for 4 or 5 hours with a load of wheat, where now you just almost never have a line. That's probably the biggest difference, but they're not taking near as much wheat as they did in the 70s either.
Yeah, that's for sure.
I think the acreage is, you probably know that, but the acreage is probably half what it was back then.
Yeah, certainly is. So you obviously talk to a lot of farmers. So these are kind of blurry times in the economy, right? With all the tariffs and interest rates and high input costs. What do you sense this year are the attitudes of farmers? Is there a lot of anxiousness out there?
I could tell you more after we've been on the road, but I don't know. I think everybody's kind of just wait and see what happens.
Yeah.
I mean, the prices of grain are definitely limiting. With all our costs, insurance is a huge issue for us, and the cost of machinery, but the farmer can't afford for us to go up in price much because he can't make anything either. So it's kind of we also farm, so we know what the farm costs are, which helps us a little bit in dealing with our customers because we know their end of it too.
Yeah.
I mean, if you can't make anything, then you don't want to do it.
Yeah.
You don't want to do it just for fun unless you've got a lot of money that you want to get rid of.
Not a lot of us in that boat. What is the single largest number of acres for any one customer that you cut?
Probably between 5,000 and 7,000.
Okay.
We've cut one field once that was right at 5,000.
Yeah.
In Montana, there's lots of big farmers, but they all have their own combine. So we don't cut all their crops. We just cut part of them.
I see.
So in Montana, we actually we've cut for like 22 different farmers up there.
Yeah.
So we don't get the huge acreage, but it's kind of more spread out. Pretty nice to get on a field that has 4,000 in it.
Yeah, I imagine it is. So what is your favorite state? If you can't say Kansas.
It'd be Montana.
Is it? Really?
Yeah.
Do you get some time, I suppose, when you've got down days to enjoy some things in each state, or what do you do on your down days?
Yeah, we try to. Like last year, we went to Yellowstone for a few days, gone to Glacier Park a few times, do some different things here in Kansas and Oklahoma.
Mm-hmm.
But we've sat I think the longest we've sat in Oklahoma for rain was 21 days and had 20 inches of rain during that time.
Wow. That sounds like something.
And that was after we'd started cutting, and then we sat that long.
Yeah.
And then we were behind the rest of the year.
Yeah.
We ended up getting it all done.
So it's a unique lifestyle. I mean, when you're doing all of that, who takes care of the cattle?
One of the boys is home all the time, and they do the farming. Basically, Bryce and me run the harvest crew, and our two boys stay home and run the cattle and the farming. And Bryce's wife and my wife do the cooking for the crew. So whenever it's raining, the crew eats twice as much, so the cook's got to cook twice as much.
I was going to ask about the food, how you operate that. You just got a camper that goes with you and has a kitchen in it. Is that how that works?
Yeah. We have our own camper. Peggy cooks out of that, and then we got a bunkhouse for the boys, and then Bryce has his own camper, and his wife cooks out of there.
Yeah.
He's got two little boys that are 4 and 3. They're our tire checkers. They like to go around and kick all the tires. We've always been a family-run business. My kids all grew up either on combines or grain carts or trucks, depending on their age. Brandon runs the crew part of the time. He'll go to St. Francis and run there, and he started driving combine when he was about 9. They can run it better than I can at times.
Well, it's good you've kept it in the family. You know, if someone was to try to start a custom harvesting business these days with all the overhead costs, do you think they could do it?
It's possible. I had a hired hand that worked for me that wanted to do custom cutting, and his dad helped him. They sold a dairy and bought combines, basically, his dad and him. But he's got his foot in the door, got in with an older custom cutter that wanted to quit and got some jobs, and he's made it. So, I mean, it's not impossible, but even he had help from a little bit of capital. But he's been at it, 10 years now? He's the same age as one of my boys, but it's really hard to just get in it. There was a crew that bought everything new, and new trucks, new combines, new everything about 4 years ago, and they went belly up last year.
Yeah.
But pretty cost prohibitive to just try to jump in. We've been in it since 49, so you kind of build your base and your equipment, and then it's not as hard.
Probably just be like getting into farming these days from ground zero. Quite the challenge.
Yeah, pretty challenging.
Yeah. So you got any interesting stories to share with us? I'm sure you either had some scares or some funny things happen. Any close calls with weather or fire or anything like that?
Well, in Colorado, once we had tornado chasers around the whole field that we were cutting, and they were there all afternoon till the tornado was about that they ended up going and chasing was about 10 miles away. But that was kind of interesting to have them sit around the field. You kind of get a funny feeling.
Yeah.
We've had some bad storms in Oklahoma where the trailer houses aren't tied down or anything, and when you get 50, 60 mile an hour winds, it rocks those trailers pretty bad.
Yeah.
We've never had any rollover yet. Have cut the wrong field once.
What do you do in that situation?
Well, you find out the guy that you cut it for, and he'll tell you thank you.
But he doesn't say keep the wheat, does he?
No, doesn't necessarily want to pay you.
No.
It actually was a person I knew.
Yeah.
And we had harvested his crop a lot of years, and it was one quarter over, and I got on the wrong one. But most of the time, but farmers know where all their fields are, and they tell you where they are and by what name they have, and that doesn't make a whole lot of,
Right.
you know how that goes, doesn't make a whole lot of sense to somebody that's never been there.
Yeah. Well, that sounds like something I would do. I think I would probably cut the wrong field. So, well, listen, Lyle, I appreciate talking with you today. This has been great. Is there anything else you want to add or anything we didn't talk about?
Just the Lord's been good to us and seen us through all these years. Next year will be my 50th year, so we plan on having a reunion with all the hired hands that want to come.
Yeah.
That might be interesting.
Yeah. Well, congratulations. That is some milestone. I'm sure that'll be a lot of fun. So, well, best of luck to all of you this year. Stay safe out there, and let's hope you get a lot of bushels in.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you to Lyle Friesen with Friesen Harvesting for being my guest on the podcast for this episode of Wheats on Your Mind. If you have a topic you'd like us to cover in the future, please email us at kswheat@kswheat.com. I'm Aaron Harries. Thanks for listening.